Hey Cedar Park, this is Mr. Staum here, and I'm going to read to you one of my favorite books of all time. It's from when I was a kid around your age. My mom first read it to me when I was young, and it's called Where the Wild Things Are. Stories and Pictures by Maurice Sendak. It's a very famous book. It's even won an award, as you see. And there's a fun fact I'm going to share with you about this book at the very end. When I'm done with it. So let's start. Where the Wild Things Are. So where the wild things are. Gives you a little glimpse of what's to come. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind. It looks pretty mischievous and a little bit naughty. And another. Oh, look at that. Chasing the dog. What I like about this book, there's hints and clues of what's really happening in the book. Do you see one here? Hint, hint. Oh, this book is old. Probably I got it when I was 6, so it's kind of hard to turn the pages. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to his bedroom without eating anything. Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me when I was a kid. Luckily, my mom hasn't sent me to my room in a while, so I've been pretty well behaved. That very night, in Max's room, a forest grew. Ooh, look at that. And look what Max is doing. And grew. Ooh. And grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around. Look at that cool picture. The moon is even showing there. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat just for Max, and he sailed off through night and day. I like the author's cadence of this book. Makes it more fun to read. And in and out of weeks and almost over a year to where the wild things are. Ooh, look at that wild thing. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars, gnashed their terrible teeth, rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. Until Max said, "Be still!" And he tamed them with his magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes with blinking once, and they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. Okay. Oh, could you see? Sorry. Like the glare. There's Max taming them with his magic trick. Excuse me. And they made him king of all the wild things. And now Max cried, "Let the wild rumpus start." And that was my favorite part of the book when I was a kid. There's king of the wild things, Max himself, declaring it's time for the wild rumpus. I wonder what a rumpus is. Let's find out. Ooh, looks like an outside dance party to me. Oh, followed up by some tree climbing. And more partying. Wild thing partying, that is. "Now stop," Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. That sounds familiar. And Max, the king of all the wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. I wonder where that is. Then all around from far away across the world he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being the king of the wild things. But the wild things But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "Nope, I must be going." The wild things roared their terrible roars, gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. I'll show you that again. They wanted him to stay, but he must be going. I wonder where he's going. And he sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day. Look what he's doing there. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. Oh! You see his supper? And look what he's doing. Looks kind of groggy. I wonder what really happened. But if you use your imagination and some other context clues, you could find out. Okay, so he found a supper waiting for him, and it was still hot. I like how the book ends with no pictures, just some simple text. Cool, huh? And it was still hot. So, if you think about this, maybe with the partner or with your teacher, what do you think what happened to him? Did he really go to that imaginary place, far away, maybe in a different world or a different realm? Or what else could have happened? Okay, that's my favorite clue of the book right there I showed you. And the fun fact of this book, Where the Wild Things Are, by Marie Sendak, is when my wife was pregnant with our son, okay, about 6 years ago, we were trying to think of all these cool names to name him, and guess what? We started looking at books, because my wife and I we really do love to read, and she's a high school language arts teacher, so she teaches a lot about reading and being creative with her students, excuse me. And we saw this book, and I suggested, what about Max? So my son's name is Maxwell. And that's where we got the idea from this, or my favorite book, Where the Wild Things Are. Well, keep reading. I hope you like it as much as I do, and make it a lifelong hobby. See you around the park.